All right, I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about Wiscoy Creek and the history of all the projects that we've done out there. As most of you know, Wiscoy is like this pretty much kind of a jewel here in New York State. A great trout stream, has not been stocked for years now, supports wild fish, both brook trout in the headwaters and brown trout throughout most of the rest of the section. Projects going back years and years and years, and here in the last few years we've done a whole bunch of really great projects, which you'll see some of that. And just for everyone to know, Scott Cornett, who spoke last month here, Scott's going to be retiring from the DEC, and one of the last things Scott did was he put together a listing of all the projects he's worked on since he's been there. 48-page report. It's on our site now. If you go to our site, you can see it. And it lists all the streams, how much work he did, and then there's like description here of like all the work that's been done. I mean, like most of you know, Scott is just a superstar in like trout fishery management. Right, I'll get started here. We'll try to run through it fairly quick. What are you kids doing here? Oh, it's my brother and my favorite niece. All right, as you know, Wiscoy, great stream, 10 miles of public access, over 10 miles actually. And there's a lot of work done back in the 50s and 60s, just mostly by Fish and Wildlife at the time. Here's the list of the major projects over since 2000. Scott's report goes back to 1970, so there's even more stuff in there. But these are just the big ones. A lot of work done at Wing, the county fairgrounds, obviously quite a bit of work there. The 2019-2021 headwaters work has really helped out because that's like where the nursery for the stream is. And then the Pike Dam, Gray Cabin, Elbow Road, and Christmas Tree, and we're going to talk about each one of those. This is a video piece on the Wiscoy Creek, Elbow Road. Come on, load, please. This was just completed last year. A couple years of work went into it. We'd been doing quite a bit of work in that area, planting trees and that.
Are you still collecting like Christmas trees and stuff like that for the Christmas tree project?
I don't think we are anymore. We took 71 trees down just 10 days ago. We took them out there, so I think we're good for this year. Next year we'll collect a bunch more.
And where do we discuss that? Do you just kind of put the word of mouth out to your friends and neighbors?
Well, we had one person actually collect all the trees for us. I think they might have gone to the Amherst compost facility where a lot of those trees got dropped off, dragged them over to his yard, and then the state brought some dump trucks. Kyle, myself, a couple guys from the DEC picked them up, drove them out to Bliss, and met up with Tom and dragged them through way too much snow. So it was steep. Tom and I finally stood by the truck and went, "You guys like handle it? We'll supervise." So we were dragging a bunch of them around. All right, here's the Elbow Road project. This is what it looks like before. You could see the banks were eroding. Some of those trees we had just planted and the banks had already eroded. The stream had moved almost 200 feet over a couple decades, because we used to fish there in the famous Elbow. Before the project, we went in and sampled for the fish to see how many we had, and we're hoping to come back next year and see that the fishing has improved. During the summer, yeah, during June, we went out and built the lunkers. Yeah, we were really hustling there. That was like, you could see it was a beautiful day. We had a lot of hands, so it went pretty quickly. I don't remember how many we did, 12, 14, 15.
Somewhere right around.
Quite a few, but it was great. They brought in a lot of rock and used a lot of heavy equipment so we could get it done. They took out the fish, electrofishing before the project, put in a bypass channel to shut the water off because it was going that way, and they ran it over there. Put out some mats so we could access it, pumped out some of the water from the work area, and then they laid the lunkers in, drove them in with the rebar, put them in place, put some willows in behind that. You could see the size of the stones they're setting on those, so we think those should stay in place for a good long time. And underneath where the stones and the lunkers are, there's room for the trout to live. Again, they laid in the live willow stakes right in behind there. Put in some root wads as well, upstream and downstream. It's just big root balls, and they ran them in and put in a grade control. And that's just to keep the elevation of the water in the area where we did the work up, and it'll run all the current through this. It's an engineered riffle, pretty much like the one you'll see at the end at the Pike Dam. They put in a very large engineered riffle. Yeah, the guy with the backhoe power shovel, he really knows what he's got going on. You can see that's what it looks like now. That was always a pretty good spot on the Wiscoy. That part of the Albro was pretty good, but now it should be, I would think, spectacular. Seeded and mulched it up. That's what it looks like from a drone shot. Looking upstream. A lot of spots for the fish to hide, and the bank is, those willows should stabilize it, and there's the grade control at the end of it. And then they went out, we planted some more trees. There's the before, and there's the after.
Did you open the channel up to put all the fish back in?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott said the fish were moving in the day after we completed.
Oh yeah,
They kind of looked at
they knew.
it.
Yeah, really great work by our group, DEC, Fish and Wildlife. The contractor did great work.
And soil and water conservation did a lot.
Soil and water, yeah, did a lot. So
Also, the excavator guy donated all his time.
yeah, and he's good. He really knows. You can see and actually downstream from that grade control, that riffle, there's a lot of good deep pools there, and then it straightens out again, and there's a really good run that I've actually, yeah, I know. Like going and fishing there. It's always been good. And there's all the people that worked on it, the TU people, DEC, Soil Water, Fish and Wildlife. Special credit to Tom, who's our sort of liaison when we're out there, and again, that's what we're going for. This was the project we did a couple years ago out at Gray Cabin. That took quite a few years. You could see the stream again had eroded quite a ways. Again, we built up a whole bunch of lunkers, structures that we could put in there. You can see that's what it looks like before. Put them lunkers in, stabilize it with a lot of rock, And now you have a really nice bank, good fish habitat, good habitat for the flies. I mean, yeah, that looks beautiful now, and right again, the fish move right back in. This was the Christmas tree project from last year. Again, Kyle, I think he only collected last year maybe 30 or 35 trees. This year we got about double. Took them out there, wrapped them with this jute twine, and staked them out. Put some stones in. You'll see that in some of the pictures. Hey, there's Kyle dragging them through the woods. There's Tom. Did a little surveying to figure out where they would put them so that the current wouldn't just go ahead and wash them out. These aren't like embedded into the bank as much. They're just wrapped and staked down. But where we've done this, it looks like they've held pretty well. Here's some of the other projects that, again, we've done over the years. Wing farm site. And you could see, again, these meadow streams, they go wherever they want to go, so they get split up, and you don't have deep pools, you have shallow runs. And they did a bank stabilization. This is sort of much older, when they used to use the cribbing and the stone. And that's the great Scott Cornett back in his youth. And the wing farm, again, that was August 2001. Wiscoy Creek, the fairground site. There was a couple of projects that were done there. The one didn't actually work out that good. We did a lot of work. You'll see with some, this was good. That was one of the first projects with the lunkers. But previously they did some of that work with just trees. And even though they had them anchored into the ground with cable, big floods came through and took out an awful lot of that work. So again, you could see those big trees were laid in there, and they thought, oh, those aren't going anywhere. But yeah, they eventually got taken out by massive flooding. But for a couple of years, that did the job. Again, fairground site. More of that cribbing, which actually is really good. The one thing with the cribbing is there's not as much room underneath the cribbing for the trout to hide, unlike with the lunkers where there's 4 or 5 feet and they have a lot more room. But this gives them good shelter, good cover, and digs deeper pools. Yeah, in the middle of that picture, Chuck Godfrey is he's probably complaining about something, if you know what Chuck. But,
He was wearing shorts there.
yeah. And again, you can see after a couple of years, these sites sort of rehabilitate themselves and grow back in. This was at Albro Road over the last couple of years. We've done a lot of tree planting. For those of you that don't know, the farmer on that side, the cattle used to come over and graze in that area, but they were going across the creek every day and caused some issues. Once that stopped, Scott was like, wow, we have to plant some trees in there again to, one, stabilize that bank, and also you can see this whole side of this side of the creek, there's no shade. There's no big trees. And now hopefully over a number of years, as these trees grow in, we're going to have some more shade. And then this was, wow, this project lasted for a long, it seemed like 10 years ago, they started talking about taking out the dam in Pike. That's what that looked like. I think this was like it's really not a dam, it's just like a structure there. a WP from back in, the 20s or 30s. It was initially built, and it became a really popular spot for the locals. Yeah, you could see how many people were gathered out there and for fishing and hanging out. And, we had fished there a bunch in our youth. Sometime during the summer, we actually saw people swimming because there's a pretty deep hole there. But once it was decided, actually what had happened, a couple kids got hurt on the dam because it started to deteriorate. This is what it looked like at the start of the project. And then you could see once they took the cap off, it was pretty busted up. Started laying in some rocks. Again, ran a diversion channel, so we would divert the water. That's it. On the right, that's where the dam is. On the left is the diversion channel. There's the busted up structure, which, hey, it lasted, 80, 90 years, so. Once that stopped the flow, they dewatered it a bunch. DEC and people from TU came in, shocked the fish and took them out of that big deep pool. Mostly sent them downstream. That was the DEC and TU. Scott and Kyle were there, and some of the summer intern help. Here's the big rocks that got brought over. You can just see the size of these because they're replacing. The dam got taken out and they put in a big engineered riffle, which I'll show you. I put these pictures in because I thought you just have to see the size of the rocks that were put in there. It's not inconsequential there. That's some of the rocks they laid in the bottom. They actually have markings on them. You can see those little cuts on them to mark them. And then they build up the riffle from the bottom, stepped up like that. And once they bring the water in, the sediment and gravel and stuff will fall in the spaces in between these large rocks and stabilize that whole structure over time. And that's what it looks like. There's the diversion channel. There's where the old dam was, and now it's again engineered riffle. And then they started to slowly let some of the water come over. So again, some of the gravel and silt and that sand would start getting caught up in between the larger rocks to kind of cement them into place. Now you can see they've let more of the water go. It's kind of chocolate milk looking. And it was ripping for a while there. And even now, like late in the fall, that's what it'll look like. But over time, it's settled down. Where the diversion channel is already, the grass is regrowing in. That's what it kind of looks like, sort of on a normal day. You could see while there's a bunch of current there, the fish from downstream can actually get up, and the fish from upstream can actually come down. So it's reconnected. Previously with that dam that was there, the fish from downstream, which is in Pike, they never could have gotten up to the. And you really want those fish to get upstream. More of the great spawnings areas are up that way, so that's why you have that. And That's it for the Wiscoy Creek stuff. I just have a slide at the end. It's my favorite slide that I've ever seen. I got it last year. I was out on the West Branch of the Delaware with the TU Teen Group. We've had Riley and Ryan were here talking about the fishing we had. I went out on Tuesday. Tuesday night, the fishing wasn't very good. Wednesday night, the fishing was okay, pouring rain. Thursday morning, both Kyle and I had to leave for home, and this next slide is Thursday night. Because there hadn't been, the hatches were sort of held off for 2 days. This Thursday night, we had like a super hatch that I missed, but the people sent me this slide. This is what we like, all this work we do, the tree planting and all this, this is what why we do it. That's the West Branch of the Delaware. All those little things, those are mayflies, sulfurs, and those little bumps, there's so many flies on the top of the water, but underneath 5 times as many emergers, and the fish are just cruising around. They're not even really rising. When it happens like this, you almost have to stop fishing because your fly is one of a million, and they're mostly taking stuff underneath, but it just shows you the West Branch is a very special fishery, unbelievable amount of bugs, and that's how come you get these monster 20, 22, 24, 26, 28 inch fish. So that's what we do all this work for. That's why we go out and plant trees and electroshock and do the things that we can to try to improve some of the fisheries out in our area. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.